Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. Today we're going to talk about tractor grapples. In my first experience with grapples, we had an ice storm in the Ozarks several years ago, and I was working in the dealership world, and everybody had storm damage, and it was pretty widespread. And people needed to use their tractors to clean up. We brought in grapples by the truckload, semi-truckloads of grapples, and sold every one of them. And I figured 2 or 3 years after that, there'd be a glut of used grapples being traded in. And it never happened. And at that time I knew that a grapple is actually an essential tool for your tractor. If you get one, you'll find other uses for it and you'll want to keep it. So today we're going to talk about the differences between grapples, and I'm going to give you some ideas if you're shopping for a grapple. And I'm going to tell you about a new product I offer with some kind of unique features. Well, first off, let's talk about the two different types of grapples that you can buy. The first one is a frame with forks that stick way out, and it's designed to go under the brush and then clamp down on it and lift it up and move it. I grew up on an apple orchard, and we didn't have a grapple, but we had what we called a bull rake. It mounted on front of the tractor, and it went under the brush when we'd prune and gather as much brush up as it could and then push that to a burn pile. The problem with that is a lot of times you don't get under all of the brush, and some of it rolls up underneath, and so you kind of string brush over a big area. You've got to get under it to lift it. And I've sold a lot of those and they work fine, but for that reason I prefer this type of grapple, which is a clamshell grapple. It's a kind of a rake frame with a grapple or two grapples on top of it, and you kind of push the brush up as much as you can grab and then kind of tilt over and then clamp down on it and then pick it up and move it wherever you want to. You don't have to get under the brush to get it. And I prefer that design now. I think it's a better design for getting more of the product the first time. Now, if you're getting a clamshell grapple and you ever haul logs, make sure you get one like this with two grapples, one on each side. A lot of the cheaper grapples have one grapple that runs the entire length, and if you do that, you can get by with having one cylinder to put that grapple up and down. The problem with that is when you're trying to clamp onto a log and it's bigger on one end than it is on the other, your grapple is trying to bend itself to get a good firm hold on that log, and that's not good. In other words, what will happen is one side will come down and get the big end of the log, and the other side is going to try to bend the grapple to get clamped down on it, and that's not good. With a grapple like the Stinger Grapple, which I'm showing today, it has two grapples, and so one end will go on the big end of the log, and then the hydraulics will stop there and then flow to the other grapple, and it'll clamp down on the narrower end of the log. And so you get a good firm grip on the log, and the machine is not trying to bend itself in order to clamp onto the log. So I like that about it. Now, there's two types of clamshell grapples. And this one, I like this design. You'll notice you can see the grapples real clearly here because there's not a big cylinder right here on the top of it. And on a lot of grapples, they'll mount the cylinders right here and right here. And the problem with that is you can get into brush with those cylinders. They're a little bit exposed out there. And also the hoses go all over here and have to come into the back to get hydraulics from the tractor. And so you've got a chance of getting brush, and if you ever move brush, you know it goes everywhere. You know, hard to keep it from getting into your front end loader. And so when the cylinders are exposed, you've got great chance for damage. And a lot of times there'll be an upsell. You can order an optional shield for the grapple, and if you get grapples like that, I would recommend getting a shield. This particular grapple's got those cylinders and hoses in the back of the frame, and I really like that design. It uses a fulcrum method for making the grapples go up and down, and when you're trying to clamp down on the load, it's pushing up, and that pushes the grapple down to secure the load. And I like that design because everything is out of the way. You've got less hose and you know, to get into the brush, and everything is protected in the back. So look for that when you're buying a grapple. The Stinger Grapple, one thing I like about it too is it's got bolt-on quick attaches on the back. There's 8 bolts hold the female quick attach that attaches to your front end loader there. And so if you go from a deer to a skid loader quick attach, And if you're trading tractors, you don't have to buy a new grapple. You can just buy those plates and put them on and go right to work. One thing to look at on grapples is how heavy they're built. And there's never going to be a perfect grapple, because you don't want to take up all of the lift capacity of your tractor with the grapple, but you want the thing to be strong. And this Stinger grapple does a pretty darn good job of combining strength and lightness. You don't want the weight of the grapple to be more than half of your tractor's lift capacity, or you can't pick up anything. Now, having said that, when you're picking up brush, it's pretty light. That's usually not a problem. But you don't want a situation where it's unsafe, where you're going down a hill and you've got a lot of weight in there, and the weight of the grapple, and you get out of control with your tractor. So this is American made. It's got 1/4 inch AR steel in it. AR is AR 200 steel, and it's well built and rugged, but it won't take up all your lift capacity. And I think this does a pretty good balance with that. But always look at the weight of the grapple. And this comes in 2 different widths, a 56 inch, which is what this is, and a 66 inch. And the 56 inch, I think, weighs 360 pounds, and the 66 inch weighs 395, which is pretty light. But when you look at how heavy it's built, it's got a lot of tubing in it for support so you don't bend your grapples. And the edges of the grapples are serrated. And I think you're going to find this is really good at grabbing material and keeping it in the grapples when you move it. Now, one thing that is kind of unique to this grapple that I really like are these, I call them duck feet. It's like webbed feet down on the bottom. I think they're there to give support to the tines, but what they also do, if you're trying to rake up waste hay, which is something I do, you can get it raked up with these, because the waste hay, the bottom part starts pushing the rest of the hay over, and then you can get a grip on it and move it to wherever you want to. So I really like that design of the grapple. Now, they've also done some little things that really set it apart. One thing I like is the slots they've cut in the frame so you can see through it. If you're trying to go into your brush pile and you're having trouble seeing, they've got these slots right here, and so you can kind of see through them. Lastly, a lot of the grapples that have a really good price on them, and this has a good price for what you're getting as strong as it's built, don't have grease zerks on the wear points. And this grapple has grease zerks up here on the top, where these tubes, where there's a tube in a tube, where the pivot points are for the grapples. You can put grease in there, and that'll give you a good long life. And also the cylinders, where there's wear points there, have grease zerks. And I really like that for longevity. A lot of your cheaper grapples won't have any grease zerks at all. You just got metal on metal, and that'll work. It'll probably last your lifetime, but this will last longer than that will. So I like that about it. So again, this is called the Stinger. It looks like it's got stingers on it, on the grapples, on the serrated edges, and I really like how it works. It's something that's new on my website that you can shop for, and I really like the price of it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about width of a grapple. If you're buying a front end loader bucket, you want it to cut out the front tire tracks of your tractor. In other words, when you go into a dirt pile, you don't want the tires wider than the bucket. On a grapple, that's less of a deal, because you have brush that's sticking out, and most of it is in the middle. So you want to grab it and let it stick out, so it doesn't really matter how wide the grapple is. Now, my front tire tracks are probably right at 62 inches. The back tires are 72, but the fronts are a little narrower. And this grapple won't quite cut out the front tire tracks, but I don't care. And the reason is, I go back in the woods a lot, and I don't want a big apparatus sticking out to run into a tree, because that's how you can really damage your grapple. So having this narrower 56-inch grapple, and by the book, you'd want a 66-inch grapple for this 40-horse tractor, but I'm going to save a couple of $100 and get a 56-inch one, because I don't want it wide, because I go into tight places to pull logs out, and I like having that narrow size. And I know as long as I can grab it, doesn't matter how much of it's sticking out, I'll move it wherever I want it. So don't fret a lot about how wide one of these grapples is, because as long as you can get that brush pile in the middle, you're pretty much going to move it where you want to, and the sides that stick out, it's not going to hurt anything. So again, that's the Stinger Grapple. It's available on my website, got a really nice price on it. I think it'll last a long time, give you good years of service, and again, I think you'll like the price for what you're getting and how heavy it's built. Pretty good grapple. Appreciate you watching my videos. If you want to shop for that grapple, the Stinger, go to my website right there. Here's a place you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which really helps me out. Here's a couple other videos you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.